Hello y'all, set to achieve. Welcome to another video. I'm just here at the Home Depot. I just did a delivery. You all know that's what I do, along with other things that I'm currently doing and putting out. Please, if you're new to my channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like the video, share, leave your comments, and guys, let us talk about this. Let's talk about this. All right. So yesterday I was getting back from church with my kids, and I was listening to a video on narcissistic abuse or narcissists, and the woman was talking about triangulation, about like how narcissists try to pitch you against their ex, or or whoever, or if you have a narcissistic mother, she'll try to pitch you against your siblings and say this and say that, try to talk about that one to you and talk about you to the other person, just to kind of like, they always like to butt heads, and that's a really evil thing. God hates that, but that's what they do. So and then after that video was done playing, another video came up, and it was talking about narcissists and stuff like sociopaths, and the fact that like they don't feel nothing for people. I mean, they don't feel anything for people, and how they're very selfish and self-centered. It's all about like them getting what they want regardless of who's hurt, and we're just talking about that. And my son mentioned something, and he said and my son is my middle child. He said, like, it's been 3 years, and he knows that I went through abuse with his father, and he's like, it's been 3 years now. It's not been 3 years, but it's been 2 years and like maybe 2 months. But he was like, it's been 3 years now. Like, when are you gonna like move on? Like, when are you gonna like, like, why are you still watching those videos? Like, why are you still watching those videos? And that made me think that, what, I need to put out a video. It just made me think, because there's a lot of people that have been in this thing 5 years, and are still in the process of healing. Can somebody tell you to heal in a snap when you've been through something for 20 years, when you've been through something for 30 years, that it should take you? I mean, who's to tell you, or who is to say when it's time for you to heal? Shouldn't you have moved on? Shouldn't you have gotten over it? People don't understand that narcissistic abuse is not a normal, just snap your finger, get over it type thing. Okay, there's a lot that goes on with it. And another thing that I wanted people to understand, and I need people to understand about this, is that when you are going through, or when you have been through narcissistic abuse, a lot of times the people around you, including family members, abuse you as well. Okay, they abuse you away, and as a matter of fact, they are the ones that gave the abusers the okay to abuse you. The abuser that you have around you, the flying monkeys, all the enablers, are the ones that gave the abuser the thumbs up to abuse you. Okay, so they actually enjoyed, or they got gratification, or they got some kind of supply from your abuse. And this could be your mother, your father, because I asked myself, why is my mother still going behind my back and communicating with my ex? Because they were getting something, okay? Because she's a narcissist herself. My dad is a huge enabler. Okay, so the fact that you're dealing with all those situations all around you, first and foremost, it makes it really hard for you to set boundaries. Okay, when you're dealing with narcissistic abuse, it is very hard to put your foot down and set boundaries. So that is part of the healing process. Okay, so when you are able to, so maybe you had that narcissistic husband or wife, and you were able to get rid of them, or you were able to pull away from them, or for one way or the other, you're not in their vicinity or in their environment anymore. You have gotten your own place, or you have divorced them or separated. If there's a way, or there was a way that you were able to pull away from them or escape, okay, you have to understand, okay, that you're not crazy. Even after 2, 3, 4 years, that you're still healing, okay? Because not only were you healing from that one narcissist, you're healing, and you're setting boundaries, and you are like literally like regaining yourself back from that abuse, okay? And the abuse, because remember I said that the people that were in your life were it was like almost like a spider web, like a net that you were in, and so you were entangled in this net, wrapped all around and trapped, okay? So just because you got your hands loose from the narcissist that you were with, maybe your ex husband or wife, does not mean that you might have to have your foot released, okay? So there are other aspects of this abuse, that you have to deal with, and a lot of people around you would not understand. They've not been through it, okay? So all those enablers, all those, people that were part of the abuse, they don't care, or they cannot, or saw you, going through these things, like your kids, for example, they saw you going through these things, and they kind of like, it became like natural to them. Like, well, this is the way you're supposed to be. Even though it wasn't the way, but in their minds, they feel like, well, this is the way that they're supposed to, this is the way it's supposed to. So when you pulled away and now you're taking certain steps, and now you're watching videos, and now you're cleansing yourself, and it's taking 1 year, it's taking 2 years, let me just tell you one thing, that nobody has a right to tell you when you're supposed to heal. It doesn't matter who it is. Whether they're saying it to your face, whether they're saying it behind your back, whether they're thinking it, nobody can tell you when. As a matter of fact, it's a lifetime process. Okay? I had to put my boundaries down and let my mother know that she cannot come over to my house anymore. Okay? Because she was causing more harm to myself and my children than good. I had to tell my father that during this past, I think it was Memorial Day that we had a holiday, that I would not be coming to his place. Because for the past over a decade, every single holiday we came to their place, and that was part of the pattern that the narcissist that I was with established, because he was getting supply and they were getting supply, some kind of supply from us being there each and every time, because he knew that my mother was in full support of him, because she was a narcissist as well, so it was just like a web that I've been in, and I'm 41, I'm gonna be 42 next month, okay? And I was in my early 20s when I met him, and even prior to meeting him, I was going through narcissistic abuse at home, and I had to run away from home. I literally had to run away from home when I was after my first year in college. I went back home. I wasn't doing very well. My mind was not stable. I wasn't happy, and I knew I needed to get. I knew even then that I needed to get away from that environment because it was toxic. So I ran away and I went to go live with a roommate. And in time I got some support from my father. Who understood, even though he was an enabler, but he understood the fact that I was not happy at home, and that I was deteriorating at home. And my sister had already deteriorated, and she's still, even till today, on medication, and she's still having all kind of mental, psychological, spiritual issues. So what am I here to say? I'm here to say that you need to save yourself. I'm here to let you know that you're not crazy, okay? And take as much time as you want to heal, okay? Because one thing that I've understood, and I've, and as I have been in this thing, and I'm growing, in the knowledge, and one thing that the Holy Spirit will help you understand is exactly what you're dealing with. The Holy Spirit, okay? And I have the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit will The Bible said that when the Spirit comes, He will guide you into all the truth. So a lot of the things that I'm seeing, a lot of the things that I'm discovering, even around the people around me, it's making me to know exactly how bad it really was that I was in, how deep it was, what I was dealing with. It sharpens your senses. So one thing that you also have to understand with this thing is that once you get away from this, once you are able to break away, you will never ever be the same. You will never be that gullible, person that you were ever again. And I believe that that's the reason why God allowed us to go through that thing, so that we don't just welcome everybody with open arms and all of that. No. Okay? We set our boundaries. Okay? Does that mean that you should be on guard with every single person? But no, you should not be on guard with every single person, but you should be discerning. Okay? We should have that spirit of discernment and wisdom, that God gives unto us. All right? So we have to trust God and trust the process, and allow ourselves the time to heal, and to acquire more knowledge, so that we don't get drawn back in, because it's very, very easy to be pulled in, to the abuse, to be pulled in to that web, before you know it, you're entangled. A lot of people think that narcissistic abuse goes far into the fabric of society. There's narcissistic abuse in churches. I remember when I was in the choir in one of the churches that I was in for like over a decade, I was being narcissistically abused, and I saw narcissism firsthand, and now I know that's what it was. I didn't know that's what it was then. Being bullied and being, all that underhand stuff, and just, when you're dealing with like a narcissistic group, or there's narcissism or narcissists in a group, there's always somebody that's going to be picked on. There's many times that I was that person. I didn't understand what it was. I didn't understand anything. It was towards the end of the time that I left the narcissist that I was married to that I understood. I started understanding that this was actually what I was dealing with. That this was a spiritual warfare. Okay, this was something that was beyond me. Okay. So you need to notice the signs, whether it's in your child, whether it's in your mother, your father. Notice the pattern. Notice, and do not be afraid to get away from it. With myself, I've been under a lot of bondage, to ties, when it comes to like financial ties, and I realized that the help that I was getting, because it's not easy to just get back on your feet when you leave a spouse, or especially a husband, and you need support from your parents, you need that family support, and I was realizing that even through that support I was being abused. That maybe they give you some money or they help you out with this, but there's strings attached. If I give you this money, you have to be here, or you have to do this a certain way, or you have to allow me to abuse your children. You have to allow me to have a say so and have how your children live their lives, and what courses that they pick. I have my oldest just graduated from high school. If I give you this money, so there's strings attached, and when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, you're tired of having your life with strings attached. Well, if I help you with this, and it gets to the point that you tell yourself, what, let God be true in my life. If God cannot provide for me, if God cannot support me, then let all the chips fall. If God cannot be my support, if God cannot be my husband, if God cannot be my head, if God cannot be my fortress, then let the chips fall where they may. So you have to get to that point, of sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm tired of being held hostage by help. I'm tired of people using their help to keep me in bondage. I'm tired of people using their financial help to keep me in emotional and spiritual bondage. At this time, I have to get up and do what I have to do. At this time, I have to trust God more now than ever before. You know, so that's one thing that you have to realize, is that when you break out of narcissistic abuse, it's not just or I left that spouse. It's the whole web of your life, the whole system of how your life has been, the people and the vultures that you had around you. Yes, they're helping you, but what are they taking from you? They're giving you a dime, you know, they are giving you that perpetual dime, but they're taking away millions from you in strength, because they want you to be dependent upon them. Call them for your needs. Oh, and they tell you, you can call me anytime, you know. But what are you trading in return? Are you able to make decisions freely? Are you tapping into God the way you ought to? Because you're, you know, and one thing that you don't understand and you don't realize is that, you know, when certain people, you know, that don't really want the best for you are helping you, you're trading spiritual power. Because the more they're giving you, they're taking, there's a certain virtue they're taking from you, but you don't realize this. Life is spiritual. They're giving you something, but they're taking back gallons in return. You know, so when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, you know, and you realize that, you know what, I have a lot to lose by being attached to this person. I have a lot to lose, you know, by allowing myself, you know, to be manipulated, right? I have a lot to lose by allowing myself to be gaslit. Well, it's not really that bad. You need to move on. You need to forgive that person. Yeah, God says forgive, but does that mean that you should allow them back in with open arms to come back and throw arrows at you and your children? So when you realize that you have a lot to lose, you're going to take matters into your own hands, and you're going to trust God, you know, that you're making the right decision, and you're going to lean on the Holy Spirit. And you're going to stop making excuses for your inadequacies and start making excuses, you know, for allowing yourself, you know, to be hurt and injured, you know, with your eyes wide open, because it's like, now you know, okay, now you know this is who this person is. Now you know they're an enabler. Now you know they're a flying monkey. So whatever you do or allow them to do now, it's on you, because now God has opened up your eyes, so you have no excuse anymore. So now you're without excuse. You know, now you're without excuse, because you know exactly what you're dealing with. And it's evil. Okay? Okay, so I just want to just leave this word with you, you know, so you can think about it, because, you know, narcissistic abuse is very, very demonic. It's very, very spiritual. Okay? And a lot of people do not understand the extent of how evil this thing is. They don't understand it. You know, and that's why they judge, you know. But what has helped me a lot is fasting, you know, because fasting is the key. Fasting helps you to subdue your flesh. So when you would ordinarily fall into the trap of going to beg, or, you know, fall into the, you know, like basically going back to Egypt, you know, going back to bondage, to slavery, you know. But when you fast, God opens up your eyes and God helps you to subdue your flesh. No, don't make that phone call. No, don't go back to them. No, don't visit that person, you know. So it helps you, because you're able to silence all those voices, you know, that normally will be rumbling in your head, and be able to keen in and hear the Holy Spirit, that still small voice that guides you. And you know that one word from God, you know, is more than anything else that you can, I mean, it can change your entire destiny. So I'm just gonna leave it here. I don't want the video